where S sub A is the acceleration response spectrum, S sub V is the velocity response spectrum, the S sub D is the displacement response spectrum, and lastly is the T is the natural period of vibration. Next slide, please. Now for the inelastic response spectra. In reality, structures do not remain elastic during strong ground motion. They undergo an elastic deformation, meaning they yield and dissipate energy through ductile behavior. The inelastic response spectrum adjusts the elastic one by considering ductility. The reduction is in response is expressed using the ductility factor, in which you have the equal to u is equals to u sub m all over u sub y, where u sub m is the actual displacement under earthquake motion. U sub y is the displacement at the yield point. So this relationship shows that as ductility increases, force demand decreases. This means that a more flexible structure can deform without collapsing. Next slide, please. So for the application to MDOF systems, in MDOF system, each vibration mode behaves like an independent single degree system. The modal participation factor defines how much each mode contributes to the total response. Here we have the formula. You can use either the two. And for the maximum modal displacement is Q sub JO is equals to T sub J D sub J. Next slide, please. We also have the formula for the effective masses, equivalent static forces, and phase shear. And lastly, to get the total response, we combine modes using either the square root of the sum of squares or the SRSS and the complete quadratic combination or the CQC method. So SRSS is used when modes are far apart, while CQC is used when they are closely spaced. So now that we have discussed the formulas in relation to the MDUF, let us move forward and try to solve sample problems. Next slide, please.
Good morning, everyone. So to better understand those formula presented a while ago, so let's try to solve some examples. So for the example one, for the two-story building frame shown in figure E7.1, determine one, the mass and stiffness matrices, two, the periods and the modal matrix, normalized mode shapes, and three, the stiffness and modal matrices. Assume Assume beams are rigid. So K is equal to 20 kips per inch and M is equal to 0.4 kips second squared per inch. So solution, determine the mass and stiffness matrices. So this can be obtained the following shown in figure 7.3 by setting M1 is equal to M2 and that's equal to M. And K1 is equal to 2K. No? Makita to sa figure. And K2 is equal to K. So this is the formula kanina sa free vibration. This is a specific formula. So this is the matrix, this is the mass matrix and uh, the stiffness matrix. So kanang 3K, nakuha na siya sa K1 plus K2. And kanang negative K sa kilid is that's the K2. And negative K po sa kilid, that's the negative K2. Kanang K is the K2. So, muna ang mass matrix. So, substitute din nato ang value kanina no 0.4, and mo din. And for the stiffness, tara, 3K minus 3K. So, ang K ato is 20 man, so 3K, so 60. So negative K, so 20, 20, 20. Now, second is to determine the periods and modal matrix. So this is the equation, guys. So this is m squared Wn raised to 4 minus 4km Wn squared plus 2k squared. Iset nato na equal to 0. Now, if we let x equal to Wn squared, so kani siya, this is set din sa, mahimo din na siya quadratic equation. Mahimo din siya m squared x squared minus 4km x plus 2k squared. So using this quadratic formula, makuha atong roots. And kada nga roots muna atong eigenvalues. So sa atong quadratic formula, natay x is equal to negative b plus or minus square root ng b squared minus 4ac over 2a. Na kaning 4, na positive ni siya kay negative 4 man tong b, so negative times negative, so positive. E kada din sa sulod na negative kay negative b squared. Neglect na to negative kay mga squared, positive bagabang. So upon simplifying, came up din taning 4 plus or minus 2 square root ng 2 over 2 times k over m. To simplify pa rin nato, nayon tayo 2 plus or minus square root ng 2, substitute din nato ang value sa k nga 20 over sa m din nga 0.4. Then mo din niyang frequencies, guys. Ang frequency number 1 is 5.41. Square root pa niya kani nga value. And sa 2 din is 13.1. And kani kung malimtan na ninyong formula sa taas katong sa quadratic equation ay alternative ato. That's 1 kanang k minus lambda m. Ato lang gyapon tong i-set sa 0. So, for natural periods, this is equal sa Tn is equal to 2 pi over atong natural frequencies. So, same formula sa atong andam ug andam. So, nakuha ang tag value nga 1.16 second and 0.48 second. Now, to obtain nato ang mode shapes, we substitute each eigenvalues. So, first, ang frequency number 1. So, and atong iset ang A2 is equal to 1. So, kani nga matrix, this is matrix sa ato ang stiffness. And ang kaning negative, kaning 2 minus square root ng 2, nakuha na ito kanina, ayan na lang sa ato ang quadratic equation kanina. So, ato iset ang kayani is equal to 1. So, 3 minus 2 minus 3 minus 3 minus 2 minus square root ng 2. Ang value ano is 2.414. Ang negative k din is negative 1. And nagkaroon din k. So, negative 1 minus 2 minus square root ng 2. We have the value ng 0.41. So, next slide. And solving for A1, the resulting eigenvector mode shape is kaning. Kaning value, guys, nakuha na to kanina. And similarly, we can obtain the second, the eigenvector negative. And makuha na nato atong modal matrix. Kana. Kung ma-observe ninyo atong pagkuan sa modal matrix is naka by column yang manner sa mga values sa sulod sa matrix. So third is to determine the modal mass and the stiffness matrices. Given the formula kanina, this is the modal mass matrix is equal to the phi raised to t multiply the matrix mass multiply din sa ato ang modal matrix. Now, ang kaning phi nga naka-raised to t, that's the transpose modal matrix. Sa modal matrix kanina, ang iyang manner sa pagkasulat sa mga values is naka-column, naki-column. Ang kani din sa transpose is naka-biro. So kung ma-observe ninyo, naka-biro na siya. Na performing dayon multiplication by matrices. So atong i-multiplyan ni una kaning transpose nga modal matrix times sa matrix mass. We get also the 2 by 2 gyapon nga matrix. Ay dayon ang result din is kaning 0.469 ay 00 din 2.73. Muna atong mga mass. Dayon sa stiffness din nga ang modal stiffness matrix instead of M ato i-substitute ani is ang inside. Stiffness ato i-multiply. Same operation ganina, so we get these values. So next slide. Okay, example number 2. Same ra gyapon sa kanina, continuation lang. So consider the two-story building frame shown in figure E7.1 and determine the participation sa MDOF system para mapakita nato kung how much each vibration mode affects the total movement sa tuwang structures during the earthquake. So importante ni siya para to ma-identify asa sa part sa building or sa bridge ang ga-move bitaw the most ga-move. And makadetermine ta sa design reinforcement og sa dampers. Anyway, so determine the participating factors. First, apply the summation form of equation 7.5 katong equation ganina. So T1 is equal to L1 over M1. It's equal to the summation from 1 to 2 kay 2 story naman ta. Sa M1 multiply din sa P1. So that's over summation from 1 to 2 also M2 over P2. That's equal to M2 multiplied by phi 11. Itong phi 11 kanina is 0.414 plus M2 multiplied sa itong phi 21 over M2 multiplied sa phi 11 squared plus M2 phi 21 squared. That's equal to 0.4 times 0.414 plus 0.4 times 1 over 0.4 times 0.414 squared plus 0.4 times 1 squared. So the resulting values is 1.207. For the T2, that's equal to L2 over M2. Same gyapon formula. That's equal to M1 multiplied by phi 11 plus M2 multiplied by phi 21 over M1 phi 11 squared plus M2 phi 21 squared. That's equal to 0.4. Atong phi 11 na ani is that's dili na siya phi 11, that's phi 12 ni siya at 0.4 times negative 2.41 plus 0.4 times 1 over 0.4 times negative 2.414 squared plus 0.4 times 1 squared. So the resulting values is negative 2.07. Sa next slide. Muna tong. So now let's move to example 3. Consider the two-story building frame, figure E7.1 and determine 1 the effective masses, 2 the peak displacement, and 3 the maximum equivalent static forces, floor forces, and 4 the maximum base shear, and 5 the maximum overturning moment. So assume the beams are rigid, so damping of 5% and the frame is subjected to ground acceleration due to an earthquake. characterized by the 84.1% design spectrum scaled 2.25 gravity PGA. So the solution given is as follows. So first atong baton is atong i-determine ang effective masses. So M1 is equal to L1 squared over M1, M sub 1. That's equal to the summation from 1 to 2 sa atong M1 phi 12 tas naka-squared na siya over to itong summation from 1 to 2 sa atong M2 phi 11 squared. So that's equal to M1 multiply sa itong phi 11 plus M2 phi 21 squared ka-squared ang whole dayon M1 phi 11 squared plus M2 phi 21 squared. So that's equal to 0.4 times 0.414 squared plus zero point 0.4 times 1 squared. So the resulting values is 0.683. And sa atong M2, that's equal, same formula lang yapon. And that's equal to M2 phi 12 plus mass 2 multiply sa itong phi 21 ka-squared ng whole dayon over sa M1 phi 11 squared plus M2 phi 21 squared. So that's equal to 0.4 multiply sa itong negative 2 over negative 2.414 squared plus 0.4 multiply sa itong 1. So the resulting value is 0.117. So next is need to determine the peak or the maximum floor displacement. So the maximum displacement at the top of the building is Q, denoted by this Q sub O is equal to T sub J multiplies atong D sub J, where D sub J is due to an 84.1% design is spectrum. Is the spectrum the figure one nato kanina is 1.16 seconds, which is greater than 0.66 seconds. So the acceleration is given as this one. A sub 1 is equal to n multiply sa itong 1.8 gravity over ato na yung time ganito. That's equal to 0.25 na 0.25 J multiply din sa 1.8 seconds times ato din gravity is naka-inch na siya, no? Inch per second squared. So that's 386.4 over then sa time na 1.16 seconds. So the value is 149.9 inch per second squared. And for T2, same formula lang. That's A2 no, is equal to N times 0.271. J is equal to 0.25 times times 2.71 times atong J din nga 386.4. So the value we get is 261.8 inch per second squared. So where N is the PGA scale factor for given earthquake, in this case 0.25. So the maximum spectral displacement are given by this formula. D sub 1 is equal to A1 over the natural frequency sa itong the natural frequency 1. So that's equal to 149.9 over ato din ganina na solve nga 5.41 inch. So next slide. Hanap natin information. So now determine the maximum floor displacement using the equation 7.3. Where atong u dash sub 0 is equal to atong phi times the time t sub f t sub j multiply sa atong d sub j. So u is equal to phi sub 1 t sub 1 times atong t sub 1, that's equal to, di ba tong phi kanina uh, 0.414 then 1, itong t1 then is 1.227 og 5.12 then atong d. So that's equal to 2.56 and 6.18. That's equal. Kuha lang na siya guys, diretso lang ni pag-multiply. Parang taas nga sa matrix, i-multiply ng kaning sa tiyog sa d 2.56 ang result. And kada ding 1, i-multiply din ning tiyog d. Mura na ibutang sa ilalom. Then same process sa pagkuha aning u sub 2, that's equal gyapon sa phi sub 12 t2 t sub 2 multiply sa tong d sub 2. So that's equal to negative 414 and 1. Then multiply din sa t2 ato kanina. That's negative 207 and atong t is d sub 2 ato is 1.52. So we get the result kaning 0.76 and negative 0.32. Almost in. Next slide. So finally, combine this displacement using SRSS rule sa atong equation nga sa equation na to sa 7.68 to obtain the peak displacement at each level. So we get this. So u sub 1 max is just equal to the square root of 2.56 squared plus 0.76. Munang value kanina. That's equal to 2.67. And for the maximum u sub 2 max, that's equal to the square root of 6.18 squared plus the quantity of negative 0.32 squared, that's equal to 6.19 inch. So next slide. Now we need to determine the maximum equivalent static floor forces given by the formula F. The matrix of F is equal to the matrix of mass multiply sa atong modal matrix multiply sa atong T matrix and sa atong A. So performing multiplication of matrices, so i-multiply nato ning first two matrix and then multiply po din nato ni ang third matrix o support matrix. Ang result din nila i-multiply po gid nato. Pero ang kaning sa ubos diretso na. I-multiply niya na 0.4 times 0.414 multiply din sa itong 1.207 times 149.9. So ang resulta na is 30. Dayon 0.4 times negative 2.414 multiply sa negative 0.207 times 261.8. Ang resulta na is 52.3. Dayon 0.4 times 1.207 multiply din sa 149.9, 72.4 ang result. Then 0.4 multiply sa negative 0.207 multiply pa gid sa 261.8, ang result is negative 21.7. So finally, combine these forces using the SRSS rule to obtain the maximum floor forces at each level. So the forces F sub 1 max is equal to the square root of 30 squared plus 52.3 squared. So kaniya sa first row nga value, first column, first row nga value, squared plus ang kanilang first second column, first row nga value, naka-squared po. That's the F1 max. Ang resulta na is 60.3 pips. Paubos daw siya. And sa atong F2 max, that's equal to the square root of 72.4 squared plus the quantity of negative 21.7 squared, that's equal to 75.5 kips. So next is we need to determine the maximum base shear. Pataas na siya. May. So add the equivalent static floor forces for each mode using the equation 7.6 or 7.61. So let us use the matrix form again. So for the shear is equal as a base shear that's equal to the floor forces, no, transpose multiply din sa 1. This is the value kanina sa ato ang forces. Katong matrix and that's transpose so ayang manner sa pagkasulat is naka in row. So that's equal to 30.0 plus 72.4 then 52.3 minus 21.7. So ang result is 102.4 and yung kanina yung 30.6. So finally to combine this using the SRSS rule to obtain the maximum base shear. So atong maximum base shear that's equal to the square root lang anang duha ka value kanang 102.4 squared plus anang 30.6 squared. That's equal to 106.9 in kips. And now to determine the maximum overturning moment, use static equilibrium to obtain the contribution from each mode to the maximum overturning moment. So di ba kay na may forces sa each floor ato. So napoy tay distances sa atong floor to floor. So naging say makreate ng moment. So atong moment sa base 1 that's equal to 30 to value kanina times ang kaning 15 mo ni ang um, length no sa atong first floor plus 72.4 times 30. So kaning 30 length na sa atong second floor. So 15 plus 15 so 30. That's equal to 2622 kips feet. Then sa atong moment sa base sa 2 that's equal to 52.3 multiply din sa 15 minus 21.7 times 30. So ang resulta na is 133 feet. Dili pa na siya mao. So ang atong final ani nga maximum gyud nga moment is ato ning i-square root ang duha. So that's equal to the square root of 2622 squared plus 133 squared. So the resulting value is 2625 kip feet. That's the maximum overturning moment sa atong structure. So next slide, Shane. So for the last example, given the three-story building frame shown in figure E7.2 with damping of 5% and subjected to a ground acceleration due to an earthquake characterized by The 84.1% design pareha kanina. Spectrum scale 2.25 gravity PGA. So determine one, the period, two, the mode shapes, three, the peak displacement, and four, the maximum equivalent static floor forces. If is the maximum base shear, and six is the maximum overturning moment. So assume beam are rigid. So each story has stiffness K, which is equal to 326.3 kips per inch. So muna itong figure. So next slide, Shane. So for the solution, so determine the equation of motion, the frequencies, the periods, and shape vectors. So muna yung formula kanina, which is the summation of forces along the x, taking the right side, going to the right is positive. We get this value, no? Negative m1 na multiply sa ato ang acceleration vector minus k1 multiply sa ato ang displacement plus k2 multiply sa ato ang displacement sa 2 minus displacement 1, that's equal to 0. So to upon simplifying, mo din mo gawas m1 multiply sa ato ang acceleration vector plus k1 plus k2 multiply sa ato ang displacement minus k2 and multiply sa itong u2, that's equal to 0. So kung ma-observe ninyo, this is a differential second order differential equation. And for the second floor, same process, taking the summation of forces along the x, we get this equation. And for the floor, third floor is this one. Una yung equation. Dahil yun, performing din sa meter x, mo din. Kung 3-story, kung 3-story atong i-analyze, itong matrix is naka 3 by 3 and so on and so forth. Kung naka 4-story, naka 4 by 4 atong matrix. Now since K1 is equal to K2 is equal to K3 and that's equal to K and K is equal to 326.3 and M1 is equal to M2 and mass is equal to 100 kips per gram per lagi. And K3 is equal to 50 kips per J. So muna ato dayong mass matrix. So kung paano ninyo nakadiagonal ang naing mga values. The M1, the M2, and the M3. And the rest then sa sulod is 0. Ato din nang i-over sa atong gravity nga 386.4 and that's the value sa atong mga masses. So next slide. Sa ubos position ka na. And for sa atong stiffness, ano siya? 2, negative 1, 0. Kanang 2 is naka K1 plus K2. Tanan equals K. So, naka 2. K2 is negative 1, 0. And i-multiply din nato na siya sa 326.3 kips per inch para makuha din nato ang value sa itong mga stiffness in each floor. So that's all for the problem. And I hope nasabtan. Yes. Thank you.
So for our next topic, we have liquefaction. Next slide, please. So liquefaction, originally coined by Mogami and Kubo in 1953, is one of the most common causes of damage to structures. And historically, it is used in conjunction with a variety of phenomena that involve soil deformations caused by monotonic, transient, or repeated disturbance of saturated, cohesionless soils under undrained conditions. So in simple terms, liquefaction occurs when saturated soil temporarily loses its strength and stiffness due to intense loading or shaking. It causes the structures to tilt, sink, or collapse. So if we have seen structures nga gatakilid kay ni sink ang other part, then it may be the effect of liquefaction. Also kanang mga dalan nga mga na-deform. So, gakahitabo ni if the soil is loose and low in permeability like silt and clay. So, dili kaayo niya gaka-drain ang water after absorbing it. Therefore, it increases the pore water pressure. So, instead of draining the water, ang water nga na-compressed within the soil pores will take on the additional stress, and we know that when the soil behaves like a liquid, loses its strength and the ability to hold structures. So muna siyang mag-crack ang soil and ma-sink ang mga buildings. So additional information that the effects of liquefaction caught the attention of geotechnical engineers in a 3-month period in 1964 when the Good Friday earthquake in Prince William Sound, Alaska with a 9.2 magnitude was followed by the Niigata earthquake in Japan with a magnitude of 7.5. So, dili lang isa ka klase ang liquefaction. They also observed nga na ay duha ka klase ang liquefaction when those two earthquake was observed before sa mga geological or geotechnical engineers. So, first nga group sa liquefaction is the flow liquefaction. So, it occurs much less frequently and but the effect is very severe. And the second is the cyclic mobility, which occurs in broader range of soil and site conditions, but the effect can range from insignificant to highly damaging. So, to better understand, um, let us discuss flow liquefaction first. So, ang flow liquefaction, it produces the most dramatic effects of all liquefaction-related phenomena and tremendous instabilities known as flow failures. So, it occurs when the static shear stress is greater than the shear strength of the soil in its liquefied state. So, a quick recap that static shear stress is the existing or the applied stress at a given moment. For example, ang structure's weight that is acting on the soil or material under a non-cyclic or non-dynamic loading conditions. And ang shear strength is the capacity or the limit that the material can handle shearing forces without breaking. So, large deformations produced by flow liquefactions are actually driven by static shear stress, and it is characterized by its sudden nature of their origin, the speed with which they develop, and the large distance over which the liquefied materials often move. So, when the static shear stress is greater than the shear strength, the soil fails, and therefore shear failure or landslide or liquefaction in this case occurs. And next slide. Cyclic mobility. It occurs when the static shear stress is less than the shear strength of the liquefied soil. So this is our hint na ang static shear stress is less than the shear strength sa liquefied soil. So it produces an acceptably large permanent deformation during earthquake shaking, and the deformations are produced by both cyclic and static shear stresses. Unlike the flow liquefaction, na static shear stress lang um, ang ma-produce ang makaproduce of deformation. So these deformations are called lateral spreading, which occur on very gently sloping ground or on virtually flat ground adjacent to bodies of water, as we can see in the picture. So a special case of cyclic mobility is the level ground liquefaction, which can produce large chaotic movement known as ground oscillation during earthquake shaking, but produces little permanent lateral soil movement. So it occurs under repeated or cyclic shear stresses, typically during an earthquake, where the soil experiences progressive deformation or sunod-sunod nga pagka-change sa shape sa rocks. That means gradual and repetitive loadings ang maka-trigger. Also, dili totally mawala ang iyang shear strength sa soil, but ma-reduce lang, unlike flow liquefaction nga sudden ang deformation and totally mawala or mo-drop sa zero ang shear strength sa soil. So next slide, please. Next is the evaluation of liquefaction hazards. Evaluating the liquefaction hazards is important to determine if the soil could lose its strength during a strong earthquake. This step is significant, especially if you're working on a big project like multi-story buildings. Hence, geotechnical earthquake engineer can systematically evaluate potential liquefaction hazards by addressing the following questions. First is the soil susceptible to liquefaction? Second is if the soil is susceptible, will liquefaction be triggered? And lastly is if liquefaction is triggered, will damage occur? So these questions pertain to the three most critical aspects of liquefaction hazard evaluation: the susceptibility, initiation, and effects. All three must be considered in a comprehensive evaluation of liquefaction hazards. Therefore, it is important to conduct site investigation due not just in multi-story buildings but also in smaller projects to avoid risk of structural damage during a strong earthquake. Next slide, please. So, muna siya ang first nga um, critical aspect in hazard evaluation, the susceptibility. So, not all soils are susceptible to liquefaction. It depends on soil properties, saturation, conditions, and loading characteristics. Generally, liquefaction only occurs in saturated soils or loose soils. That is why we have several criteria in which liquefaction can be judged. So, the first criteria is the historical criteria. Post earthquake field investigations have shown that liquefaction often recurs at the same location when soil and groundwater conditions have remained unchanged. Liquefaction case histories can be used to identify specific sites or more general site conditions that may be susceptible to liquefaction. So if the site already experienced liquefaction, then pwede na sa na mautro, especially if ang soil and groundwater conditions of that area remained unchanged. And the distance to which the liquefaction can be expected increases if mag-increase bod ang magnitude sa, for example, earthquake. So, if ang imong site has a history nga na naka-experience na siya liquefaction, then you can think twice if imo pa ba ituloy diha ang project or not. So, second criteria is the geologic criteria. Soil deposits that are susceptible to liquefaction are formed within a relatively narrow range of geological environments, according to Ude in 1991. The depositional environment, hydrological environment, and age of a soil deposit all contribute to its liquefaction susceptibility. So mag-base ni sa grain size distribution, age of the soil, and the characteristics of its environment. In geologic criteria pod, ang groundwater is also determined because its depth influences the liquefaction susceptibility. So kung mag-decrease ang groundwater depth, then mas susceptible to liquefaction ang imuhang soil. Kay mas dool man siya sa water. So masaturate ang imong soil. And it will decrease if mag-increase ang imuhang groundwater depth. The next slide, please. So, ang next criteria is the compositional criteria. Compositional characteristics associated in high volume change potential tend to be associated with high liquefaction susceptibility. These characteristics include particle size, shape, and gradation. So, for many years, liquefaction-related phenomena were thought to be limited to sands. So, motong ingon kaganina that liquefaction mainly occurs in loose and saturated soils. However, ang U.S. Army Corps of Engineers conducted a research before in the field and in the laboratory, and they found out that liquefaction also occurs in gravelly soils. So even though gravel usually allows water to drain easily, if it is covered by impermeable layers like silt or clay, the poor water pressure inside the gravel can't escape during an earthquake. So when shaking continues and the trapped water pressure builds up, the gravel layer can lose its strength and behave like a liquid, just like sand does. So ang liquefaction susceptibility pod is influenced by graduation. So katong well-graded soil, poorly graded soil, gap-graded soil. So muna siya ang gradation. So ang well-graded soil are less susceptible to liquefaction because smaller particles fill the voids within larger ones. reducing volume change and pore pressure buildup. And in contrast, ang uniformly or poorly graded soils are more prone to liquefaction since their loose structure allows easier particle rearrangement during shaking. Also, ang soil with round particles pack together more easily when shaken, allowing them to lose strength faster, which makes them more likely to liquefy than soils with angular grains. And the last criteria is the state criteria. So liquefaction susceptibility also depends on the initial state of the soil, such as its stress and density characteristics at the time of the earthquake. Since the tendency to generate excess pore pressure of a particular soil is strongly influenced by both density and initial stress conditions, liquefaction susceptibility depends strongly on the initial state of the soil. So, ang initial state of the soil is it refers to the pressures or forces existing in the soil before an earthquake happened. So there are contemporary methods to evaluate state criteria, and these are the critical void ratio, steady state of deformation, and state parameter. So ang critical void ratio is the specific void ratio at which a soil continues to deform under constant shear stress and constant volume. Ang steady state of deformation occurs when soil deforms continuously at constant shear stress, effective confining pressure, volume, and velocity. This state is achieved only at large strains, where soil behavior depends mainly on its density rather than its initial conditions. And the last is the state parameter, which is defined as the difference between the soil's current void ratio and the void ratio of the steady state line, or the line which um, determine if the soil is susceptible to liquefaction or not. And when the state parameter is positive, it may be susceptible to flow liquefaction, and if it is in negative, the soil is not susceptible to liquefaction. So that is all for my part.
Now let's discuss the initiation of liquefaction. So, liquefaction initiation means kung kano sa magsugod ang process sa liquefaction. First, it says that liquefaction initiation depends on disturbance strong enough to trigger it, not just soil susceptibility. So when we say soil susceptibility, means how likely or how prone a type of soil is to experience liquefaction when it is disturbed. In simple terms, bisan pa prone ang soil sa liquefaction, like loose or saturated sand, dili siya basta-basta mag kung walay kusog nga trigger. Usually, ang trigger ana kay earthquake or strong ground vibration. Mao na ang sa pag-assess sa liquefaction hazard, dili lang nato tan-awon kung unsa klase sa yuta, pero apil pod kung unsa ka kusog ang possible nga ground shaking. For example, in the recent 6.9 earthquake that happened recently in Cebu, specifically in Bugu City. According to PHIVOLCS, naka-record sila og sign in Barangay La Purisima Concepcion, Bugu City. Watery sand surged out of the ground, a sign of liquefaction. Ang mga ing-ani nga signs only means nga kung taas ang tubig sa ilalom sa yuta or high groundwater table o unconsolidated ang soil, mas dali gid siya ma-liquefy basta naay kusog nga linog. Mao ni ang rason nga no importante nga i-assess ang site condition o possible ground motion intensity before magtukod og building o infrastructure, labi na sa mga coastal areas. Next is flow liquefaction and cyclic mobility are distinct. This means lahi sila nga klase na behavior sa soil. Ang flow liquefaction kay kalit lang nga pagkawala sa strength sa soil and starts to flow. May tabo ni sa earthquake pero pwede pod tungod sa static loading o constant vibration. While ang cyclic mobility pod kay gradual lang mag-change shape ang soil tungod sa repeated shaking pero dili totally mawala iyang strength. Lastly, understanding initiation involves identifying the soil's effective stress state at triggering. Ang effective stress mo na ang pressure nga naghold sa soil particles. Kung mo zero na ni or hapit mawala, diha magsugod ang liquefaction. Mao ni nga part importante sa analysis kay because of this, ma-estimate nato kung unsa kadali o kagrabe ang possible liquefaction sa isa ka lugar. Next slide please. So as we can see in the image, we have three stages labeled A, B, and C. This show what happens to the soil particles during liquefaction. In A, the soil particles are still packed closely together, meaning stable pa ang structure. And B, you can see there's already a water interlayer forming between the particles. This happens when the pore water pressure starts to build up during shaking. Then sa C, the particles are fully separated by water, meaning the soil already lose its strength. Mo na ni ang stage nga magbehave na siya like liquid. Flow liquefaction occurs under certain effective stress conditions shown by a stress path, meaning liquefaction starts when the effective stress or the pressure that holds the soil grains together becomes very small or zero. So once that happens, the soil can no longer support loads and it starts to flow. It also mentions the flow liquefaction surface or FLS, which defines where strain softening begins. So, stray softening means the soil starts to lose strength and stiffness, usually in loose and saturated sand. So, if the soil is loose and puno sa tubig, mas dali siya maapektuhan during shaking. Though difficult to measure, the FLS is vital for understanding soil behavior during and after earthquakes. It means that knowing where that FLS happens helps engineers predict how the ground will behave kung asa dapit ang soil nga prone mo collapse or mo flow during strong earthquakes. Next slide please. So under flow liquefaction, we have the monotonic loading. This happens when loose saturated sand is exposed to increasing stress. For example, during heavy construction loads or slope failures. Samtang nagkadugay ang stress, musaka ang pressure sa tubig sulod sa yuta or ang pore water pressure. Kung sobra na kaayo ni nga pressure, mawala na ang og kusog ang yuta kay ang tubig na ang magdala sa pressure imbis na ang mga soil particles. So once this pressure becomes too high, the soil starts to lose its strength and that's when instability begins. Mo ni nga part nga gitawag og flow liquefaction surface or FLS. This is like the boundary between a stable state og unstable state. Kung moabot na ang stress sa FLS, the soil shifts from being strong to suddenly collapsing. We also have here the cyclic loading. Ang cyclic loading pasabot ani is balik-balik nga kusog o pressure nga muigo sa yuta parehas kung maglinog nga sigiglihok ang yuta. So kada shake ana mo increase ang pressure sa tubig sulod sa yuta o mo decrease ang effective stress. Kung magsigig balik-balik ang stress, moabot gyud sa point nga ang stress path moabot na sa flow liquefaction surface or FLS, which is ang limit kung asa di na kaya sa yuta magpugong og mawala ng iyang strength. Pag abot ana nga point, ang yuta mo na nagmuliquefy o mahimong water-like iyang behavior. Next is the development of flow liquefaction. This happens in two stages. Una, magkadugay, mataas ang pore pressure sulod sa yuta tungod sa external stress like linog o bugat nga load. Pag abot sa point nga ang stress path moabot sa flow liquefaction surface or FLS, magsugod na mawala ang kusog sa yuta. Then ikaduha, magsugod ang strain softening. Pasabot is maginahinay na og pagkawala ang yuta while naglihok siya tungod sa shear stress. Mabot sa point nga completely liquefied na ang yuta, mura na siya tubig nga dili na makasupport og load. So, in simple terms, kung nay earthquake, una mo increase ang pore pressure which is sa stage 1. Unya magsunod ang pag-slide o pag-deform sa yuta which is sa stage 2. Hantod mag-liquefy og mo-collapse ang structure sa ibabaw. Next slide, please. Next topic is influence of excess pore pressure. So, excess pore pressure is very important in liquefaction kay mo ni ang main reason nga nung mawala ang kusog or stability sa yuta. When we say pore pressure, pasabot ani ang pressure sa tubig nga naa sulod sa mga small spaces between soil particles. Now, kung magsugod nig increase ang pore pressure, usually tungod sa earthquake or heavy loading, ma-reduce ang effective stress, which is mao ang gatabang para magpabilin nga stable ang soil particles. Kung ma-reduce na siya, ang yuta mahimong weak ug dali na siya mo behave like a liquid. Depende pod sa klase sa movement like flow liquefaction or cyclic mobility. Lailay na sila og required nga pore pressure para maka-cause to occur. So in short, kung taas ang pore pressure, mas taas pod ang chance nga magka-liquefaction ang soil. Now let's move on to letter A, which is flow liquefaction. Flow liquefaction happens kung ang shear stress or the force nga naglihok sa soil musubra na sa iyang kaya or steady state strength. So under this condition, ang yuta magproduce og excess pore pressure nga makakause og change sa stress path hangtod maabot niya ang FLS. So pag abot sa FLS, mo na ang point nga ang soil mulus na gyud og strength og magsugod na ang sudden deformation. In other words, dali na siya mulihok or mo-flow. Usually katong soils nga duol sa FLS, masayon maliquefy while katong layo pa need pa og stronger stress or trigger. Na kung atong tan-awon ang graph sa kilid, it shows the relationship between shear stress ug effective stress. Sa left side, makita nato ang steady state point. Mo ni ang normal condition sa soil. As the stress increases, move ang line padulong sa taas hangtod maabot ang FLS. That's when liquefaction starts. Once maabot na ang FLS, ang soil mag-lose og strength ug maglihok na murag fluid. So in short, ang kana na image is nagpakita kung giunsa pag-trigger sa excess pore pressure o shear stress ang flow liquefaction process. Thus, kung mo increase ang pore pressure, mo decrease ang effective stress. Next slide, please. Next is cyclic mobility. Cyclic mobility happens kung ang static shear stress kay mas ubos pa sa steady state shear strength sa soil. Meaning dili pa siya kusog enough para makakause og flow liquefaction, pero tungod sa repeated or like cyclic loading like during an earthquake, maghinay-hinay gihapon nga mawala ang strength sa soil. So instead nga sudden ang movement para sa flow liquefaction, diri sa cyclic mobility gradual lang siya, step by step nga pagkawala ang kusog sa yuta kada vibration o loading cycle. So this condition pwede mahitabo sa duha ka klase sa soil, ang loose o dense soil. Tungod kay kung magbalik-balik ang stress, ang pore pressure o deformation maghinahinay pod og build up. Eventually kung magpadayon, ang yuta mahimong unstable og mo deform, pero dili ana ka drastic like sa flow liquefaction. We also have here the graph. The steady state point mao gihapon ang starting condition sa soil. Ang FLS or flow liquefaction surface nagpakita sa limit kung asa magsugod ang full liquefaction. Then sa cyclic mobility, ang stress path kay naara below sa FLS. Dili pa siya molapas, mao nga dili pa mag-flow ang soil pero gradually mo hinay-hinay og loss of strength. So in summary, cyclic mobility is like a milder version of liquefaction. Dili siya diretso nga paglihok sa soil like a liquid, pero tungod sa repeated shaking, mag-anam-anam gihapon og kahuyang ang yuta hantod mahimong unstable. Next slide please. Now let's talk about the effects of liquefaction. Liquefaction can cause severe damage to both structures and the ground itself. During an earthquake, kung mag-liquefy ang soil, mawala iyang strength. So, di na siya makasuporta sa mga building o infrastructures. For example, ang flow liquefaction makakause og flow slides, tilting or sinking of buildings, og uplift sa mga buried structures like ang mga tanks or pipes. Meanwhile, sa cyclic mobility is it can still cause slope failure, settlement og lateral spreading sa ground. Mo nang makita nato nga murag naglihok o nagslide ang yuta. Other visible signs after an earthquake include ground oscillations or like pag-uyog-uyog sa surface, sand boils kung asa mogawas ang tubig ug balas, and post-earthquake instability nga makapahuyang pa sa area even after the shaking stops. Now, kung tanaw nato ang picture sa kilid, makita nato nga ang building tilted or nagtakilid na. This is a real example of what happens when the ground loses its strength tungod sa liquefaction. The soil underneath behaves like liquid, so the structure sinks or tilts, just like this one. Next slide, please. Alteration of ground motion. So during earthquakes, liquefaction reduces soil stiffness as excess pore pressure increases, softening the ground and altering motion characteristic. So kung mag-earthquake, ang pressure sa tubig sulod sa soil or pore pressure mudako. Tungod ana mawad-an og stiffness ang soil, meaning dali na siya ma-deform or molihok. Mo ni nga ang ground mahimong soft or murag naglihok like high pore pressures can block high frequency vibrations but allow low frequency ones to pass. Pasabot ani kung taas na ang pore pressure, ang yuta dili na makapasa sa mga high frequency nga pag-uyog like mga kusog o paspas nga vibration. Pero makapas gyapon siya sa low frequency nga motion. Mao siya ang mga hinay pero dako og lihok nga makadaot sa structures. For example, kung taas ang pore pressure, ang mga building murag mag-uyog og hinay pero lalom iyang movement ana. Low frequency motions can cause large displacements, damaging bird structures and pile foundations. So ang mga low frequency nga motion makakause na sila og dako nga displacement, meaning ang yuta molihok og dako which is makaguba sa mga underground pipes, drainage lines ug pile foundations sa buildings kay molihok man ang yuta nga ilang gisuportaan. Deep liquefaction may decouple surface layers, resulting in ground oscillations, fissures, and waves. Kung ang liquefaction mahitabo sa ilalom nga part sa soil, pwede nga ma-separate ang ibabaw nga layer gikan sa ubos. Ang result ana is makita nato nga murag mag-uyog o nag-wave ang surface. Makabuhat og fissures or mga bitak o ground movement nga murag balod. Next slide please. So, development of sun boils. So, ang sun boils kay murag small volcanoes nga mogawas during earthquake. Ang tubig ug sun is mogawas padulong sa surface tungod sa high pore pressure. Bisag dili kay siya destructive, indicator gyapon siya na naay liquefaction sa ilalom ug possible nga weak na ang ground support. Sun boils form when earthquake-induced excess pore pressure forces water upward through cracks, carrying sand to the surface. So kung mag-earthquake, ang pressure sa tubig nga naa sulod sa yuta mosaka tungod sa kusog nga pag-uyog. So tungod ana ang tubig ug balas mangita na sila og agianan padulong sa ibabaw. Usually sa mga bitak o gamay na mga buslot. Mao ni nga makita nato na murag balas ug tubig nga mogawas sa yuta. So mao na atong ginatawag nga sand boils. This occurs when the vertical effective stress drops to zero, creating a quick condition. Mahitabo ni kung ang pressure sa tubig sulod sa soil moabot sa point nga wala nay nagunit nga pressure sa mga soil particles. Ang result ani is ang yuta murag nahimong tubig nga mudagan. Mao ning gitawag nga quick condition. So ingon ana nga sitwasyon dali na kayo mo liquefy ang yuta ana. Next slide please. Formation depends on pore pressure magnitude, soil thickness, and permeability. So, ang pagkahimo sa sand boils no, magdepende sa pila kataas ang pore pressure, unsa kabaga ang soil layer, ug unsa kadali makasulod og makagawas ang tubig sa yuta. Kung taas ang pressure ug humok or like baga ang yuta, mas dali gid nga mo form ang sand boils. Though not structurally damaging, sand boils indicate high pore pressure buildup and potential liquefaction. Bisan pa dili ni siya diretso makaguba og building or like kalsada, ang sand boils it's a clear sign nga taas na ang pressure sa ilalom. Kung sa ingani nga sitwasyon, possible nga nagsugod na ang liquefaction which is makadaot sa mga structure. They also signal weakened soil that may lead to flow deformation and sloping ground. So ang presence sa sand boil means nga humok na ang yuta. Kung naa pa gyud ni sa lugar nga medyo patag o naay slope, possible nga mulihok ang yuta o mag-slide. Mo ni ginatawag nga flow deformation nga makadaot sa mga building o dalan nga naa sa ibabaw. I think that's it for my part.
So to continue, let us discuss the other two effects of liquefaction. First, ato sang i-recall ang liquefaction namo ni ang loss sa strength sa yuta. So first, the third effect is the settlement. So when we say settlement, ang total vertical displacement sa foundation after makargahan og load, ang kabugaton Muna siya ang kabukaton sa building, bridge, or embankment. So kakahitabo ni siya when ang sand kay nag-densify tungod sa shaking. And if may tabo ni, of course, magubagid ang structures, ang shallow foundations, and the utilities para sa pile-supported structures and buried lifelines. Okay, sa timing of settlement, sa dry sands, ga-densify and ga-settle siya quickly, usually completing by the end of the earthquake. Ganun ni siya because wala may air. So, absence sa air and air is compressible, so earthquake shaking overcome frictional resistance. Unlike sa saturated sands, nga mas dugay because ang settlement kay mag-occur lang pag nawala na ang earthquake-induced pore pressure. So while disappear ang tubig, kamulo pod ga-densify ang soil. And as this process continue, kadugay more salt gyud siya sa settlement. Ang time pwede few minutes to about a day, and depende na siya sa permeability, compressibility, o drainage path length sa soil. With that, we may define settlement as a result sa densification sa yuta after mag-liquefy and nawala na ang pore pressure sama sa pang-mention nila ganina. And this is why it is also referred as delayed effect nga makita na to few minutes, hours, or even a day after sa lindol. And as engineers, we need to understand settlement kay dapat na to malimitahan ang settlement kay if dakong total settlement sa soil, possible gid na nga molubog or mo collapse imong structure, so nasayang lang gyapon siya. So next effect, or the last one effect, is the instability. Liquefaction induced instability, so state of being unstable. Mao daw ni siya ang most damaging sa tanan earthquake hazards nga ma-observe nato siya in the form of flow slides, lateral spreads, retaining wall failures, and foundation failures. So instability condition. Instability occur when the shear stresses required to maintain equilibrium of a soil deposit exceed the shear strength of that deposit. Shear strength, kumbaga, ang resistensya sa yuta against sa paggalaw or sa pagguho. So, if grabe na gid ang tension na ginahatag sa earthquake kesa sa strength sa soil or yung kusog, then of course, failure gid ang mahitabo. Required shear stresses mao ni ang pwersa nga ga-push sa soil to deform, and liquefied shear strength naman mao ni ang minimum nga kusog sa soil while ga-liquefy or after liquefaction. So kung ang pwersa nga ga-push sa yuta or the required stress kay mas dako kaysa sa liquefied strength, mas evident ang iyang pagka-unstable. So para mabalance siya, need siya og large deformation para mabawasan ang required stress hangtod nga magpantay sila sa liquefied strength. And if small difference lang between the strength and stress, so of course, small deformation lang sab ang kailangan to attain balance or equilibrium. So kumbaga, mas malaki ang deformation ng lupa kung malaki ang kulang sa lakas na ito. And para ma-accurate nga ma-evaluate ang instability effects, kailangan og accurate sab nga estimation sa shear strength sa liquefied soil. We have also 3 estimation approaches for shear strength. First, kay based sa careful and disturbed sampling and laboratory testing. Second is based sa in situ test parameters and interpretation sa non-liquefaction case histories. And third is treating the shear strength of liquefied soil as a normalized strength. Flow failures induced by liquefaction occur when the shear stresses required to maintain static equilibrium exceed the shear strength of the liquefied soil. So naatay upat ka distinct mechanisms for flow failure nga na-identify ni National Research Council. So natay table no. So ang first mechanism is the flow liquefaction. Mao ni ang most fundamental flow failure mechanism. So it shows a classic example sa pinakapaspas nga pag-collapse sa soil due to liquefaction. Yang condition, totally undrained condition. So the failure quickly happens while naapa ang shaking and when wala na time para maka-escape ang water. So meaning no drainage na siya. So therefore, no void change nga nahitabo. And because the soil loses strength under static load, ang yuta mag-move like a viscous fluid. And sama sa gimension ganina, it happens very fast Because of this, gakos siya og large deformation causing severe damage sa foundation and structure. So we have naman the second mechanism, the local loosening flow failure. At first, ang shaking mag-cause og excess pore pressure like sa mechanism A. And but while ga-dissipate ang tubig pataas, gakaharangan siya causing it to migrate and mag-concentrate sa usa ka lugar, specifically a thin layer of soil. Condition, impeded flow by a low permeability layer. Because low permeability layer man siya, and sa ibabaw sa liquefied sand, the movement of water is being blocked kay tungod the layer is acting as a drainage boundary. So, when we say about sa process, because naipit man ang tubig, na-increase sa pressure sa water under the harang or the boundary. So, this pushes the soil, resulting in an increased void ratio. Sa ani nga layer, na-loose siya compared sa iyang initial state. And then, mo result din siya ang process nga pag-lose sa deposit sa layer and too much water mag-cause og thin layer or film nga yuta nga halos purong tubig or grain na lang. So this layer will have zero shear strength of course. And tungod ani, flow failure happens. And this is dangerous kay it would suddenly happen and sa ana lang yun nga nipis nga layer. The third mechanism naman is what we call global loosening flow failure. This happens if naay downward seepage, so gaagos paubos ang water, nga ka-drag or naay seepage force sa soil grains. So this results in lower effective stress and increase in void ratio. Then mo na ito nga instability happens. So, ang condition niya, downward flow toward deeper drainage boundary. So, failure or ang pagguho may happen after the earthquake. And the last mechanism is interface flow failure. Between the liquefied soil layer and buried structure like friction pile, retaining wall, or foundation. Instead na ang soil mo like murag muguho siya, it is the structure nga mag-cause of failure tungod sa pag-slide sa weak interface. So, interface kumbaga murag the boundary. If mag-liquefy ang soil and ang effective stress mo baba and mag-cause para muubos ang shear stress sa interface. And if dako ang force nga ga-push ana nga structure kaysa sa strength sa interface, mag-start na dayon ang pag-slide. So kung ang interface kay smooth, example kay bakal or precast concrete na pile, ang shear strength kay gamay and di na kailangan ng volume change sa yuta para mahitabo ang collapse or pagguho. This means nga failure could also happen even sa yuta nga nay dilative tendency tungod ang controlled factor kay very low friction sa smooth surface of the structure and not the soil strength. Hence, the critical factor kay ang pagbagsak sa effective stress sa interface. So, kung ato siyang i-summarize ang upat ka mechanisms na defined by National Research Council, sa mechanism A, this is the fundamental flow failure mechanism. The mechanism B, ang epekto ng tubig na naipit. So, naipit kini mong tubig dito, so naharangan siya. Ang third mechanism is ang epekto ng pagbaba na paghila ng tubig. And the fourth, the last mechanism, epekto ng pagdaos-dos sa ibabaw ng liquefied layer. And that's all for our report. Thank you for listening.
Here, as you can see, for our prototype, we showed our two topics, the MDOF system and also the liquefaction. So in the first picture, it is a three-story building. And for the other picture is the for the liquefaction. So for the MDOF, this is a three-story building. It represents a typical MDOF system. So each floor is modeled as a rigid diaphragm with a lumped mass and the columns provide material safeness. So play na to ang video. So sa video, gishake mo siya like inducing an earthquake. So during an earthquake, each story can move independently, producing three lateral displacements, where each of these floors represents 1 degree of freedom and their motions combined into different vibration patterns called mode shapes which is discussed kanina. So by analyzing this MDOF system, we can find its natural frequencies, mode shapes, and how each story contributes to the total seismic response.
So, among prototype nga ikaduha, we have built will visually demonstrate kung unsa ang liquefaction. So, we're simulating saturated cohesionless soil and ang among small house represents a structure nga gibuilt na mo on the ground. So, next slide. Okay. So, when you shake muna ang symbolizes earthquake, the shaking will generate excess pore pressure inside our saturated sand. And since this is an undrained condition, ang water has nowhere to go. So mo nang sa before, di ba nakasadi lang siya. So after dayon nanay shaking, since na may tubig ang amo ang sand, so wala na kagianan ang water. So mo rin to nga ang among structure is na natagilid. And this among prototype demonstrate the direct relationship sa pore pressure build-up ug ang collapse sa soil. And that's it for our prototype presentation.